It's a rainy day here in Florence, Italy, but that's not stopping me from getting on my A318 today. I'm about to head over to the check-in desks here at the Florence Petetola Airport. This will be a fully narrated flight. And did you know that I now have a service where I can narrate your flight in real time? That's right. If your plane is equipped with Wi-Fi, I can be available to you to talk you through your flight in real time, just like I do in this video. My videos on YouTube are fully narrated from a unique point of view, and I'm now accessible for a one-on-one session throughout your flight. Details are in the description below. For now, I'm doing the flying, so I'm dropping off my bag at the Air France check-in desk and proceeding to my gate after security. In typical European airport style, you're forced to walk through a maze of stores. This is a small airport, and I was surprised to see how much shopping I had to pass through to get to the gate area. All I wanted was a pastry and some orange juice. I couldn't think of much except the fact that I'd be boarding a really small and rare airplane very soon. Flight 1067 will get me this morning out of Florence, and I'm ready to board from the gate that was the furthest walk from the security checkpoint. All right, we're all set for our departure to Charles de Gaulle. Let's go. After a short but very crowded bus ride where I couldn't even reach for my camera, we were deposited at the base of the stairs of this Babybus, which is just 103 feet long. This is just one of 6 A318s in Air France's fleet and one of 10 operating for airlines in the whole world. Even though it's small, boarding at this airport occurred through 2 doors. Today my seat is over the wing. It's not ideal, but this is all that was available. Take a look at that plane landing at this single runway airport. Even though it's headed that way, we'll be taking off in the opposite direction. Yes, this is one of the most unique airports in the world with a single runway at just over 5,100 feet. And because of the presence of a mountain at the end of one side, almost all flights will land to the northeast on runway 5, and almost all departures will take off on runway 23 in the opposite direction. It's an extreme airport, and we're on an extremely small Airbus. What a flight this will be. We're pushing back on the very small ramp, which only has room for a handful of airplanes. The tug pushes us back from our stand in a typical fashion. I use the word stand since we didn't start off at a gate. We took a bus to a stand. That's much more common in Europe than in the United States, where I take most of my flights. While it was great to walk on the ramp, the weather wasn't the best for today, and as you can see, it's not going to be easy to take a video out the window because there are raindrops on the window. Once the tug is removed, we can begin to move on our own on the ramp under our own power. But when we leave the ramp depends on arrivals and departures on the single runway. You see, there's no parallel taxiway to get to our departure runway, runway 23 today, so we can only get clearance onto the runway when traffic allows. And all arrivals to this airport need to be spaced far apart enough so that they can turn around and taxi back on the runway to get to the ramp. Even a departure needs extra time on the runway, and a sufficient gap in arrivals is necessary so that the departing flight can taxi down the runway, turn around, and take off. And sometimes you'll have a departure spaced between arrivals. There surely is a limit of the number of operations at this airport. See this plane taking off? It had to occupy the runway twice, once for taxi and once for takeoff. We'll do the same. After this plane took off, another airplane landed in the opposite direction only after the departure was clear of the arrival airspace. Now, I missed the arrival landing, but I did see it as it cleared the runway back to its taxi to the terminal. Here it is, an ITA A319 arriving from Rome, still painted in the old Alitalia colors. Once this plane is clear of us, we can enter the runway and back taxi down to the very end. There are just 2 taxiways from which we can enter the runway on from the ramp. There's another entry point on the other side, but that's used for general aviation aircraft as the GA ramp is on the other side of the runway. This is a very short runway and no large aircraft can land here. We're on a small plane today, so we're good. We taxi down the runway in the direction of runway 5, the landing direction, but we'll use a turnaround at the very end to take off on runway 23, which is runway 5 in the opposite direction. The runway is only 5,118 feet long, a lot shorter than most commercial use runways. Due to a displaced threshold, the landing length is even shorter. Check out the video I posted landing at this airport where we were able to stop in just half the length of the runway. To get into position on runway 23, there's an exit taxiway near the far end, which we'll use to take a very short parallel taxiway to the very beginning of runway 23 so we can take off. From what I know, an ITA plane landed on runway 5, and then we entered the runway and we should get into position on runway 23 and take off. However, I noticed that we held on the short taxiway for some time. This only encouraged me to look out the window despite my camera having lots of focus issues due to rain. I wanted to know why we were holding, and the answer came to me out the window. Another aircraft landed on runway 5, and instead of keeping us at the beginning of runway 5 and waiting for this plane to land, we used the taxiway we're holding on now as a holding area while the arrival aircraft occupied the runway. The arrival will clear the runway on the same taxiway we just exited the runway on, and will taxi up behind us as the controller gives us clearance to line up on runway 23. Once we start our takeoff roll, the arrival will taxi onto the runway behind us and use the runway as a taxiway all the way to the end, and will turn off to the left to the ramp. Since we're on the runway, I'm pretty sure that there are no airplanes on final approach in the opposite direction in front of us, and we'll get takeoff clearance right away. This runway is so short, we come to a stop, add power, release the brakes, and then roll. What a quick takeoff with lots of power on a short runway. To clear the path for arriving flights to runway 5, we make a right-hand turn before continuing the climb out. Downtown Florence is on the left side of the plane, and I barely saw the Duomo, but with this turn and less than ideal conditions, I just didn't see much at all on the climb. 131 seats are ascending to the north on this rare aircraft type. This aircraft has a range of 3,100 nautical miles, but we won't be needing it to fly that far today. Introduced in 2003 with Frontier Airlines, only 80 were ever built. The A318, due to its size, is a lighter aircraft and can fly longer distances. One time it operated between JFK and London, but only in the direction of favorable tailwinds. Once you're on board, it's hard to tell if you're on an A319 or A318, I noticed. The cabin is around 12 feet wide. Here's the snack on this Air France operated flight. Unfortunately, clouds dominated the view until reaching the Alps, which were the highlight of the en route portion of this flight. I'm seated on the left side of the plane today for two reasons: the departure out of Florence, which didn't provide the views that I wanted to see immediately after takeoff, and the approach to Charles de Gaulle. You see, today Charles de Gaulle is landing to the east since the wind is coming out of the east, and I'm expecting an approach to runway 8 right, the southernmost easterly facing runway. We'll be approaching the airport from the southeast from Italy, which means that we'll have to turn around to land. The airport itself is to the northwest of Paris and will likely fly just north of Paris on a right downwind leg before entering airspace to the northwest of Paris, before making a right base leg turn, then another right turn to join the final approach course to land on runway 8 right. If this happens, as I hope, the city of Paris will be on the left side of the plane, and that means I may get to see the Eiffel Tower today. That is my goal today. Of course, a huge drawback is the fact that my seat is right over the wing. I didn't plan for this at all. I normally would have selected a seat either in front of or behind the wing, but I made a very late booking for this flight, and that was all that was available, so I'll have to struggle to look down. We're in the left turn now, which will point us just north of downtown Paris. As we descend lower and lower under the control of the Paris approach controllers, I know that soon we're going to see a big city down there. But where is the center of Paris? With a limited sightline due to the wing and the A318's left engine, I'm struggling to recognize Paris landmarks. Is the Eiffel Tower there? Is it there? It's so hard to see down there, but that looks like the Seine River, and wait, oh yes, I see the Eiffel Tower as we begin our downward leg to the airport. The airport is now to our right and behind us, and after proceeding west, we turn back to the north on a right base leg to join the final approach course. We'll be landing on runway 8 right, and right means that there is a left runway. There are actually 4 parallel runways here at the Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, which allows for simultaneous approaches to parallel runways. And today, I'm in luck as a Cathay Pacific A350, a huge plane, parallels our tiny A318 as it approaches a parallel runway. We're now on final approach and have received clearance to land from the control tower. We're spaced sufficiently behind the traffic we're following. As we approach our runway, we can begin to see the northern set of runways at this airport, France's busiest. We're a small airplane among many aircraft that are much larger than we are, but the A318 won't be around for much longer. In the Air France fleet, new modern aircraft such as the state-of-the-art A220 are replacing aircraft like the A318, and very soon there will be no more A318s in its fleet. Newer airplanes are more efficient and make more economic sense. Romania's Taram still operates a few A318s, and once those are gone, the only A318s left in the world will be flown by private operators, including some governmental operators. Those are indeed very rare sights and aren't flown as often as airliners, so if you ever get to see one, relish the sight. As we clear the runway, we need to get to one of the passenger terminals at this massive airport, but to get there, we need to cross the parallel runway in the south set of runways, and as you can see from the plane waiting to take off, this runway is the departure runway. I hope you enjoyed this short flight from Florence. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to click on the subscribe and like buttons. I'll have many more videos like this coming up, and if you enjoyed my narration, I now offer a service where I can narrate your flight in real time. All you need to be on is airplane Wi-Fi, and I can message you from the ground, and I can provide details about what's going on in the environment in which your flight is operating. For more information, details are in the description below. This flight is coming to a close, and what better way to end this A318 flight than pulling into a gate next to an Airbus A220. This is the exact aircraft type that's replacing what we're on now. Farewell, A318. All right, everybody, welcome to Paris, France. Thanks so much for watching this video.